Centuries had passed since the Great Galactic War. It was the bloodiest conflict the stars had ever seen. Entire worlds burned, fleets vanished, and billions died in silence. When it finally ended, the surviving empires swore that war would never return. The Council of Worlds was born, a great alliance made to protect peace. Their fleets were locked away in deep space vaults, their weapons sealed under treaties older than most species alive today. And for hundreds of years the galaxy was calm. Trade flowed. Borders softened. Children grew up never seeing a battleship. The stars finally felt safe. But peace has a strange weakness. It makes people forget fear. Then, one quiet cycle, the first signal came. It was faint, buried in static. A small listening station at the edge of the Drath Empire picked it up by accident. At first, the technicians thought it was cosmic noise, the kind that comes from dying suns. But the signal repeated. A rhythm. A pattern. 3 short bursts. 2 long ones. Then silence. Over and over again. When decoded, it formed no known language, no frequency marker, no origin trace. But it felt deliberate. Within hours, the message spread through the Council's secure channels. A meeting was called on the capital world of Virelia Prime. Leaders from every major empire arrived. The scaled Drath, the crystal-formed Kareth, the insectoid Valen, and dozens of others. They all sat around a shining table that stretched for miles beneath a glass dome overlooking the stars. Chancellor Reth of the Kareth Empire spoke first. We've confirmed the transmission. It's repeating from beyond charted space, Sector 19X. No known colony exists there. Admiral Sorvak of the Drath leaned forward, his eyes glowing red. Could it be a lost probe? Or one of the fringe pirates? The room was silent. No one wanted to say the one word everyone was thinking. Finally, a quiet voice spoke. It came from Elder Trin, the oldest member of the council. Her body shimmered with soft blue light as she whispered. That pattern, it matches something from our archives. From before the war. Reth frowned. Before the war? That was over 5 centuries ago. Trin nodded slowly. Yes, but this signal, this rhythm, was used by an old race. A dangerous one. They called themselves humans. The room froze. Even the translation systems hesitated before repeating the word. Humans. Most in the room had only heard the name in history lectures. Stories of a small, aggressive species that fought far beyond their size. But they were gone. Their homeworld, Earth, was burned to ashes during the Great Galactic War. No survivors. No colonies left. At least that's what everyone believed. Admiral Sorvak laughed, trying to break the tension. Impossible. Humans are dust. A myth for children. If they were alive, we would have seen them centuries ago. Elder Trin only stared at him. Perhaps. But then tell me, Admiral, why is the signal coming from the same sector where their last fleet vanished? Sorvak had no answer. 2 days later, a scout ship was sent. The vessel CWS Horizon traveled to the edge of the galaxy, where light grew thin and space turned cold. Its crew of 20 carried orders to find the source of the transmission and report back. For a while, the mission was calm. The stars were quiet, the instruments steady. But then the pilot saw something strange on the scanner. A distortion. Like a shadow moving across the void. The crew thought it was a glitch, until the stars behind the distortion began to disappear. Captain, I'm losing visuals. The stars are fading out, the navigator said, her voice trembling. Adjust the filters, the captain ordered. Already done, sir. It's not the filters. It's something out there. Moments later, the comms officer gasped. Sir, there's movement. A formation. The captain turned to the main screen and saw them. Black shapes, moving in perfect silence. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. No signals. No lights. No heat. Just dark, knife-shaped silhouettes gliding through the void. Identify them. Nothing, sir. No ID codes. No engine signatures. It's like they're shadows. Then one of the ships changed direction, heading straight toward the horizon. Evasive maneuvers. Get us out of here. Engines roared. The ship turned hard, trying to flee. But the shadow moved faster, silent, unstoppable. And then the horizon's lights went out. The last transmission received by the Council was a single, broken message. This is the horizon. They're not pirates. They're not alive. Static. When the signal ended, the Council chamber fell into chaos. Empires blamed each other. Some called it a hoax. Others whispered the old word again, humans. But none could explain what followed. Because one by one, outposts near the border began to go dark. No distress calls. No survivors. Just silence. And on the scanners, faint outlines of unseen fleets drifted closer every day. The galaxy had forgotten war. But now, something old had returned to remind them. And then the stars began to go dark. Panic spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The disappearance of the scout ship Horizon shocked every empire. One moment its signal was strong, the next gone. No debris, no black box, nothing. It was as if the ship had been erased from existence. For the first time in centuries, the Council of Worlds called an emergency session. Across the skies of Virelia Prime, massive diplomatic cruisers arrived, shining silver, gold, and crystal. Leaders from 100 species gathered under the Great Dome. The air was heavy with fear. Chancellor Reth opened the meeting. His calm voice hid the tension beneath. We have lost contact with 3 more stations near the border. No trace of attack. Just silence. The screens around the chamber showed holograms of the missing outposts, empty structures drifting in space, lights flickering like dying candles. Admiral Sorvak of the Drath Empire slammed his clawed hand on the table. This is sabotage. Someone is trying to break the peace. You think I don't remember the First War? It started just like this. Reth replied sharply. The signals are coming from outside any known territory. No empire is responsible for this. Elder Trin spoke again, her glowing form dim under the blue lights. You all saw the pattern. You all heard the name whispered across the channels. The humans, they might have returned. Laughter broke out among the younger delegates. Humans? Myths, one shouted. Stories for frightened children, another added. But none of them could explain what was happening. No empire claimed the attacks. No pirates had the technology to hide entire fleets. And yet, entire systems were vanishing. Outside the chamber, the sky of Virelia Prime darkened. Reporters and citizens crowded in the streets. Every news channel showed the same headline. The stars are going dark. Rumors spread fast. Ghost ships, shadow fleets, ancient weapons. Some said the dead had returned. Others said the galaxy was being punished. Back in the council, panic grew stronger. Reth tried to speak reason. If these shadows are human, they cannot have survived this long. Perhaps they are machines left behind. Admiral Sorvak growled. Machines do not hunt. They do not send warnings. The Valen representative, a tall insectoid with golden eyes, leaned forward. If this is true, if humanity survived, then we may have doomed ourselves centuries ago. The chamber fell silent again. Elder Trin nodded slowly. You all remember how they fought. They never surrendered. Even when their world burned, they fought from the ashes. We believe them destroyed, but what if they adapted? What if they evolved in the dark? The silence was broken by a trembling voice from the comm desk. Incoming transmission, from the sector where Horizon vanished. Everyone turned. The holographic screen flickered to life. A faint, broken signal filled the room. Static. Then, a voice. This is Patrol 9, we found something, looks like ruins of an old colony. Not ours. It's human. The signal cracked again. Wait. There's something carved into the rock. Words, in old Terran script. The voice grew faint. It says, we remember Terra. Then the screen went dark. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Voices shouted over one another. We must prepare defenses. No. You'll start another war. They'll come for us all. Chancellor Reth raised his voice. Enough. We will not panic. We will investigate before. Suddenly the lights flickered. The room dimmed. Every console in the chamber glowed red. A deep alarm began to hum through the walls. Power surge detected. Who authorized this connection? Then, on every screen, a single symbol appeared. A black circle with a burning white line across it. The mark of the old human fleet. A mechanical voice echoed through the hall. Come, Colt. Peace was never yours to keep. The message repeated once. Twice. Then vanished. When the lights returned, the chamber was silent again. No one spoke. Even Sorvak, the proud warlord, said nothing. Finally Reth whispered, they're sending a message. Elder Trin finished his thought. No. They're sending a warning. Hours later, across the galaxy, fleets began to move. Not to attack but to hide. Empires activated old bunkers, sealed trade routes, and cut off border systems. The peaceful galaxy began to fracture once again. On the edges of space, strange readings multiplied. Shadow fleets drifting closer, silent and cold. One scout drone captured a glimpse before it was destroyed. A single black ship, moving without engines, surrounded by darkness that swallowed light itself. Its hull carried no insignia, only the faded letters. US Nemesis, the human's last warship. The video ended abruptly, but the image spread like fire. Billions saw it. Billions feared it. And across 1,000 worlds, one thought echoed again and again, whispered in every market, every port, every ship. The humans are back. In the darkness of space, the shadows moved in silence. They did not speak. They did not demand. They simply advanced. And one by one, the outposts along the border lost their stars. The galaxy had grown soft under peace. But the humans had not. They had returned, not for conquest but for judgment. And the council could feel it. The unexpected war had begun. The galaxy held its breath. After the strange warning, peace was never yours to keep. Every empire was on alert. Fleets quietly reactivated. Ancient bunkers opened. For the first time in centuries, warships powered their engines again. But no one fired a shot. Not yet. Because no one knew who the enemy truly was. In the deep black of Sector 19X, the Drath flagship Iron Wrath moved slowly through the void. It was an enormous vessel, long, armored, built for war, though its guns had not fired in generations. Admiral Sorvok stood on the bridge, his red eyes glowing in the dim light. His scales shimmered with tension. Around him, his officers moved carefully, whispering reports. Admiral, long-range sensors detect faint distortions ahead. Same type as the ones that erased the horizon. Bring them on screen, Sorvok ordered. The hologram blinked and there they were, shadows again. Faint outlines of ships, blacker than space itself. Dozens. Moving without heat, without light. No energy signature. No communication. No transponder codes, the technician said. Are they human? Unknown, sir. But they're not attacking. Sorvok studied the screen. His claws tapped the railing. Maybe they're afraid. Let's test that theory. He turned sharply. Send a hail. All frequencies. The comm officer nodded and transmitted a universal message. Unidentified vessels, this is the Drath flagship Iron Wrath. You are entering protected space. Identify yourselves or we will consider you hostile. The bridge waited. Only silence replied. Then, static. The officer frowned. Sir, we're receiving something. An old transmission protocol. The holographic display glitched and a distorted voice filled the bridge, human but deeper, mechanical. To those who broke the Earth Treaty, the shadows have come. The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Sorvok's jaw tightened. Shadows? Are they mocking us? He turned toward his fleet commanders. Form up. We'll show them how the Drath answer ghosts. Moments later, the Iron Wrath and its escort ships powered their cannons. Blue energy pulsed across their hulls. Weapons ready, Admiral, said the weapons chief. Target the lead shadow ship, Sorvok ordered. Fire. A blinding wave of plasma streaked across the void. The blast tore through the darkness, but the shadow ship didn't move. The energy passed straight through it, vanishing like light into smoke. The crew stared in confusion. No impact, sir. It's like they're not even solid. Nonsense. Fire again. The Iron Wrath unleashed another volley. Still nothing. The shadows didn't dodge, didn't react. They just drifted closer. Then all at once, every system on the Drath fleet flickered. Lights dimmed. Consoles went black. Engines died. We're losing power. Reboot main cores. It's not working, sir. They're inside the systems. On the view screen, the shadow ships began to glow faintly, lines of pale blue light running across their hulls, forming strange symbols, almost like runes. Then a voice echoed across every ship in the fleet. Come, Cole. We asked for peace. You answered with silence. Now we answer with shadow. One by one, the Drath ships drifted into the darkness. No explosions, no wreckage. Just gone, swallowed whole. The Iron Wrath was the last to fall. Sorvok watched the lights fade, his voice trembling for the first time in his long life. So it's true, the humans live. Then everything went black. Hours later, the Council of Worlds received a faint emergency ping, a partial data fragment from the Iron Wrath. When decoded, it contained a single image. A human face, pale, scarred, wearing black armor. The eyes were hidden behind a dark visor. Below the face, a message appeared in ancient Terran script. Peace was never your choice to keep. The council chamber fell into chaos again. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others urged diplomacy. Elder Trin watched quietly, her voice soft. "We're not facing an army," she said. "We're facing a message." Chancellor Reth frowned. "A message?" "Yes," she replied. "A reminder. Humans warned us once that peace must be earned, not built on graves. Maybe they're here to make us remember." Meanwhile, on the far edge of the galaxy, deep within a nebula of crimson gas, the Shadow Fleet gathered. Hundreds of ships, all black, all silent. Some were old human warships, their hulls repaired with alien metal. Others were sleek, new designs, unknown to any scanner. At the center of the formation floated the UES Nemesis, the last great flagship of Earth's lost navy. Inside, the command deck was dim and quiet. Soldiers in dark suits stood motionless, their faces hidden behind helmets. A woman sat in the captain's chair. Her voice was calm but heavy with history. "The Drath have fired first. The others will follow soon." Her second officer turned to her. "Do we strike back?" She shook her head slowly. "Not yet. They must see what fear feels like again. Only then will they listen." The officer hesitated. "And if they don't listen?" The captain's eyes glowed faintly beneath her visor. "Then we finish what they started." The Shadow Fleet turned as one, engines lighting up with a cold blue flame. From afar, it looked like a storm of ghosts drifting through the dark. On Varelia Prime, the Council received one last broadcast that night, a signal from an unknown origin. It showed a single black ship hovering over a dead world. A voice spoke. "You built peace on our ashes. You forgot who taught you war. We have returned to remind you." Then the transmission ended. Across the galaxy, entire civilizations watched the replay, the silent ship, the calm voice, the promise of judgment. Fear became real again. For centuries the stars had known peace. But now the shadows of Earth had returned. And somewhere deep in that endless black, the humans watched, unseen, unstoppable, waiting for the galaxy to understand. The first contact had been made. And it was only the beginning. The galaxy had not seen fear like this in 1,000 years. Every empire, Drath, Valen, Kareth, and hundreds more, watched the stars with dread. The first contact had shown them the truth. The shadows were real. And behind those black ships were the descendants of humans, the very race the Council once swore was extinct. Now they had returned. But they were not screaming for revenge. They didn't conquer. They didn't send demands. They simply appeared, and waited. At first, the Council tried to calm the people. Official statements called the Shadows a rogue machine fleet, left behind after the Great War. But everyone knew better. Reports came daily, planets gone silent, fleets vanishing, files being stolen from military archives. The Shadows weren't destroying everything. They were choosing their targets. Old admirals. Retired generals. War profiteers. People who once fought against Earth. Each night, the same symbol appeared on their communication screens before they disappeared. A black circle with a glowing white line, the mark of the human fleet. On the Council capital, fear turned to argument. The Valen Prime Minister shouted, "We must strike first. If we destroy their ships now, we end this before it spreads." Chancellor Reth slammed his fist. "Strike what? We don't even know where they are. Every time we send a fleet, it disappears." Elder Trin, calm as always, whispered, "They are not fighting for conquest. They are cleansing what the galaxy refused to face, its own guilt." But no one listened. The fear was too strong. Soon the empires began to break their old promises. Treaties were ignored. Armies rebuilt. Secret projects restarted in hidden moons. The galaxy that had sworn to never fight again was preparing for war once more. Then the first fall came. It began with Vor Station, a massive trading hub at the edge of Drath territory. It was filled with merchants, diplomats, and millions of civilians. One night, all transmissions stopped. When a rescue fleet arrived 3 hours later, the station was still there, untouched, floating quietly. But everyone inside was gone. No signs of struggle. No bodies. No damage. Only a single message carved across the main docking gate. "You forgot who burned first." The Council panicked. But before they could react, more worlds fell silent. 10 in one cycle. Then 20. Then 50. Each time, the Shadows left messages carved in stone, metal, or data logs. Each message pointed to an event from the Great Galactic War. Massacres, betrayals, broken promises. The Shadows were not destroying randomly. They were delivering judgment. News channels called it the Silent War. No battles, no explosions, just fear spreading like a virus. In the Kareth Empire, Admiral Laura, an old war hero, tried to speak with the Shadows directly. Her fleet waited near a dying star where one of the signals originated. Then they came. 1,000 black ships surrounded her. She stood on her bridge, unarmed, and opened a wide-band channel. If you are human, I wish to talk. I fought in the old war. I did what I had to, but I seek peace now. A reply came, soft and calm. Peace is not a word you can claim, Admiral. It is something you broke long ago. Then teach me, she said. Let me make it right. Silence. Then a new voice, younger, almost human, spoke. We will not teach you. We will show you. Her fleet vanished from radar for 7 hours. When her ships reappeared, every crew member was alive, but their memories were gone. Entire decades erased. They could not remember the war, their victories, or their crimes. Laura collapsed to her knees and wept. They took our past, she whispered. That was their mercy. As these stories spread, the empires began to surrender. Not to the shadows, but to their own fear. Some worlds went dark on purpose, shutting off all communications, hoping to be ignored. Others began broadcasting apologies into space, begging for forgiveness from the humans they once destroyed. In one sector, statues of ancient heroes were torn down, replaced by empty monuments bearing a single inscription. Forgive us, Earth. But the shadows didn't answer. They didn't conquer planets or claim territory. They just kept moving, slow, unstoppable, like a tide of darkness across the stars. On one world, a small child saw them pass overhead, massive black ships gliding through the sky without sound. The child asked her father, "Are they monsters?" The father whispered, "No. They are what happens when we forget who we are." In the council chamber, the tension reached breaking point. Chancellor Reth stood before the delegates. This is no longer about survival, he said. This is about truth. The humans are showing us what we became when we destroyed them. And if we don't understand that soon, there will be no galaxy left to save. Elder Trin nodded. The shadows are not here to rule. They are here to make us remember. Every empire built its peace on the ashes of Earth. And now the ashes have come alive. No one replied. Outside the window, a dark fleet passed slowly across the sky. No sound, no signal, just presence. For the first time in centuries, every being in that chamber felt small. Because they finally understood the truth. The shadows weren't the beginning of a new war. They were the end of an old one, a war that never truly ended. And far across the stars, inside the UES Nemesis, the human captain watched the galaxy's chaos through a holographic screen. Her second officer reported softly, "Do we continue the operation, Commander?" The captain's voice was calm, distant. "Yes. The lesson is not complete. When they stop fearing us, when they begin to understand, then we will speak." She turned her gaze toward the shining spiral arms of the galaxy. Until then, let them remember what silence feels like. The lights of the shadow fleet dimmed as it disappeared into the dark once again. And behind them, another world fell quiet. The galaxy trembled. The empires fell. And through it all, the shadows of Earth kept moving, unseen, unstoppable, unbroken. The fall of the empires had begun. The galaxy had fallen silent again. Not from peace but from fear. Worlds that once glowed with life now hid behind dark skies. Fleets that once showed pride now drifted, quiet and cold, afraid to move. Every empire watched the shadows pass and prayed they would not stop. The shadows of Earth had changed the stars themselves. But no one knew why. On the capital world, Virelia Prime, the Council of Worlds met again. The once bright chamber now looked dim and weary. Leaders spoke softly, their voices heavy. Chancellor Reth stood before them, looking older than ever. We cannot hide forever. Every empire is losing ground. The shadows take what they want and we don't even know what they want. We must talk to them. Admiral Sorvok's chair was empty. His fleet had never returned. Elder Trin sat quietly, eyes glowing faintly blue. She nodded. Yes. If they wished to destroy us, they already would have. They are waiting for something, a moment, perhaps, or a question we have not asked. And what question is that? Reth asked. Why they came back, she whispered. A signal arrived the next day. It came without warning, no source, no frequency. Every screen in the council building turned black, then white. A voice spoke, calm and human. Council of Worlds. You once swore peace. You once swore unity. Yet your peace was built on graves, our graves. You hid your crimes behind silence. Now the silence has answered. Gasps filled the chamber. Reth spoke firmly. If this is humanity, then speak to us directly. We wish to understand. We wish to make peace again. The voice paused, then replied. Peace is not words, Chancellor. It is memory. And you have forgotten. The screen changed. A series of images flashed across it. Scenes from the Great Galactic War. Worlds burning. Human ships breaking apart while alien fleets closed in. Civilians running, children crying, the blue oceans of Earth boiling under bombardment. You called it victory, the voice continued. We called it extinction. For the first time, every council member saw the truth. The destruction of Earth had not been a clean war. It was genocide, one that the council had buried, rewriting the history books to hide their guilt. Elder Trin lowered her head. So that's what this is. Judgment. The voice replied softly. No, Elder. This is remembrance. Judgment comes only when you refuse to remember. The screen went dark. Then a new signal appeared, coordinates. A location in deep space, far beyond any mapped route. Reth looked around the chamber. They want us to go there. Or they want us gone, another delegate whispered. Trin stood up. Then I will go. A small diplomatic cruiser, the CWS Resolve, left Varelia Prime. It carried no weapons, only a single crew and one mission, to meet the shadows. The journey took 5 days through uncharted space. The stars grew thinner, the void darker. Then, at the edge of the galaxy they saw it. A fleet. Massive. Silent. Endless. The Shadow Armada. At the center floated a single black ship larger than any they had ever seen, the U.S. Nemesis. The Resolve stopped a safe distance away. Elder Trin stood at the window, her heart heavy. Send the transmission. The comms officer nodded. This is the Resolve, representing the Council of Worlds. We seek dialogue. Please respond. For a long moment there was nothing but static. Then, a flicker on the main screen. A figure appeared. Human. Tall, armored in black metal, face hidden behind a dark visor. The voice was calm, measured. You came. That is more courage than we expected. Trin bowed her head. Are you human? We were, the voice said. Now we are what remains, the shadows of Earth. Why did you return? The figure was silent for a moment. Then spoke. Not for revenge. Not for war. We returned to remind the galaxy what peace costs. Trin frowned. What do you mean? The voice continued. You made peace by destroying those who disagreed with you. You silenced the ones who resisted. You built unity from fear. And when it was over, you called yourselves civilized. But the galaxy is peaceful now, Trin said quietly. Peace without truth is only sleep, the shadow replied. You forgot the fire that created it. You forgot the hands that bled for it. We did not. The screen flickered. Another image appeared, the blue planet Earth, broken but not dead. Some of us survived, the voice continued. We rebuilt in the dark. We watched. We waited. And when the galaxy began to forget, we returned. Not as conquerors, but as a mirror. Trin took a breath. What happens now? Now the galaxy must choose, the voice said. Remember or repeat. Truth or silence. Those who face what they've done will live. Those who deny it will vanish. The transmission ended. The Resolve waited, but the shadows did not fire. They simply turned away, their fleet fading back into the darkness. Elder Trin whispered. They could have destroyed us. But they didn't. The comms officer nodded slowly. So what now, Elder? Now, she said, we go home and tell the truth. When the Resolve returned, the galaxy listened. Elder Trin addressed the entire council and every world that could still hear. The shadows are not our enemies. They are our reflection. Humanity survived because we destroyed them, and now they've come to show us what we became. She paused, her voice trembling. They are not here to kill us. They are here to wake us. That night, across 1,000 worlds, people looked to the sky. Some saw hope. Some saw fear. But all saw the truth, that the ghosts of Earth were still watching. And somewhere in the dark, aboard the Nemesis, the human commander looked down at the galaxy and whispered, They finally heard us. The officer beside her asked, Will we speak again? The commander shook her head slowly. Not yet. Let them live with their memories first. The fleet turned away, engines glowing faintly blue. As they vanished into the black, the stars behind them began to shine brighter, like the universe itself was remembering something long forgotten. The shadows had delivered their message. Now the galaxy had to decide what to do with it. The stars were quiet again. But this time it was not fear that kept the galaxy silent, it was reflection. The message from the shadows had spread to every world, every colony, every moon. For the first time in 1,000 years, the species of the galaxy stopped building weapons, and started building truth. The great realization. On Varelia Prime, the council hall was no longer filled with shouting or lies. Instead, it was filled with silence, the kind that comes after awakening. Chancellor Reth stood before the assembly, looking out at representatives of every species. Their faces were tired but thoughtful. "The shadows showed us what we chose to forget," he said. "Now we must choose what to become." Elder Trin sat beside him, her eyes calm. "We built our peace on the bones of a dead world," she said softly. "Now we must build it on truth." Across the hall, a young alien delegate raised her hand. "If the shadows were right, can we ever be forgiven?" Trin smiled faintly. "Forgiveness is not theirs to give. It's something we give ourselves, by remembering." The return of the dead world. In the months that followed, a new mission was formed, Operation Dawnlight. A group of scientists, historians, and diplomats from every species was sent to a world long abandoned, Earth. The journey was slow, filled with tension. Many still feared the shadows, unsure if they would allow anyone near their sacred world. But when the fleet reached the Sol system, there were no warnings. No black ships waiting. Only silence. The planets floated peacefully in the void. Jupiter glowed bright, Saturn's rings shimmered like glass, and Earth, scarred but alive, turned quietly below. The alien explorers descended through gray clouds and storms. When they landed, they stepped into ruins covered in moss and metal. Cities half buried in dust. Statues crumbled. Oceans smaller. Skies heavy with ash. And yet, beneath all that death, life. Green vines crawling over steel. Flowers blooming where bombs had once fallen. One alien whispered, "Even after everything, the world still heals." Another replied, "Maybe that's the human legacy, they don't stop trying." The message beneath the stone. Near what was once a human capital, the ruins of old Geneva, they found something unexpected. A massive monument buried in the earth, its surface made of dark alloy. Ancient letters carved across it read, "We are not gone. We are watching. When you are ready to live with truth, you will find us again." The explorers stood silently, their hearts heavy. They transmitted the message to the entire galaxy. And for the first time, every empire listened not to power, but to history. The human commander's view. Far away, hidden beyond the galactic rim, the US Nemesis drifted in the shadows of a dying star. Inside, Commander Lyra Hale stood before a viewport, watching the transmission being broadcast. Her reflection glowed faintly in the light of old Earth's message. Her second officer, Jalen, approached quietly. "They found it," he said. "The monument." "I know," Lyra replied. "They were meant to." He hesitated. "Do you think they'll change?" Lyra didn't answer at first. She watched the holographic projection of Earth, now bright again on the main display. "Change takes time," she said finally. "But they're learning. That's enough for now." "And what about us? What do we do next?" She turned away from the window. "We go home." Jalen frowned slightly. "Home? There's nothing left of it." Lyra smiled faintly. "Home isn't a place, Jalen. It's what we carry." The shadows fade. The Shadow Armada prepared to depart. Ships turned, engines flaring a deep blue, vanishing one by one into the endless dark. Before the Nemesis left, Lyra sent one last signal, a faint transmission that echoed across the stars. "To all who hear this, the age of silence is over. Remember who you were. Remember who we were. And maybe one day when you look at the stars, you'll see us again." The message traveled through the void, crossing systems, passing satellites, touching every world. And then, as quietly as they had come, the shadows of Earth were gone. The new dawn. Decades later, the galaxy began to change. The old empires dissolved. The younger races took leadership. Weapons turned into tools. Warships became explorers. They built a new kind of unity, not through fear or power, but through shared memory. In schools across the galaxy, children learned about humanity, not as monsters but as a lesson. A story about strength, pain, and forgiveness. They called it the Age of Dawn. And once every year, when the stars aligned with Earth's orbit, all ships dimmed their lights for 1 minute. A silent tribute to the race that had vanished, but never truly died. Epilogue. On the far edge of the galaxy, in a system unmarked on any map, a blue planet shimmered faintly beneath twin suns. It was small, peaceful, and alive. In the distance, shadows moved between mountains. Not ghosts, not machines, humans walking beneath a new sky. They had returned to rebuild, away from war, away from history. A child ran through tall grass, laughing as a voice called out, "Stay close to the light." The camera would rise, showing the horizon, a rebuilt world under a golden dawn. And as the sun rose higher, the voice of Commander Lyra echoed faintly in the air. Peace was never about silence. It was about remembering.